Hey, what I like to do now is go over the basic essay structure. I go over it no matter what course of English I'm teaching, no matter how, whether it was remedial years ago or honors, I still do it because I always think it's a good idea to remind students of the basic structure. Also, because I do things perhaps a little bit differently from other instructors. So let's run through this. And I think it'll be very helpful for all of our essay assignments. And so the rule that I've been using my whole career is it helps if you keep in mind that every single essay, no matter how long it is, has three basic components: one, two, and three, which I put in Roman numerals. And if you keep in mind that each one of those components has two of its own components, then you have the basic essay structure down. So let's take a look at that. So first, I want to look at the three basic components. The three basic components of an essay are first the intro, then the body, and then lastly, the conclusion. So if you keep in mind that every essay has to have those three items, and then each has two of its own, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Certainly for this course. I think for any course, it worked for me even when I did my master's thesis. So let's start with the intro. The intro, this is the part of the essay that's supposed to kind of be a preview, I guess. Let your reader know what it's going to talk about before they actually get deeply into the essay. So the two components there are the thesis and the main ideas. The thesis, and this is an important distinction to make, is the point of an essay. It is what you want your reader to walk away from the essay remembering, keeping in mind. Many confuse it with the topic of an essay, but it is not the topic. The topic of an essay is what it's about. So it's like a question. The question is the topic. The thesis is the answer to that topic. Like, for instance, if I were to say, what is a good car to own? I'll use that as my topic. I'll say somebody asks, what is a good car to own? That is the topic of the essay. What is a good car to own? The answer to that is the thesis. That's the point you're trying to get across. And so in this case, I'll just use my brother's experience as an example. He used to have a Honda CRV before somebody crashed into it and totaled it. But he might say for his thesis, a Honda CRV is a good car to own, something along those lines. So this is that's a thesis. That's the point. Then you have the main ideas. The main ideas are the reasons supporting your thesis. In my brush, so I'll go ahead and put that here. They are the reasons supporting the thesis. And so in my brother's case, if you were to ask him why did you like your Honda CRV when he had a CRV? I can think of three reasons offhand that he would probably say. One, he would say it was affordable. So a little typo there. Then he might say it's roomy. So he's like me, taller than we're twins, so he's taller than average. So a roomy vehicle helps. And then three, he might say it's reasonably fast. So now we have the thesis that the Honda CRV is a good car to own, and the reasons: affordable, roomy, and reasonably fast. So from there, now our intro is set. And then from there, we go on to our body paragraphs. And so one question I like to ask to my students is how many body paragraphs are you supposed to have? But don't give me a number. The answer is at least as many main ideas as you have. If you have three main ideas like we have here, you want at least three body paragraphs. You can have more. You can have 4, 5, 6, but you don't want to have two. You want to have at least as many body paragraphs as you have main ideas. And so each part of an essay, or excuse me, each component of an essay has two of its own components. And so the intro has the thesis and main ideas. each body paragraph has first a topic sentence. And so since my first main idea was that it is affordable, that would be my first topic sentence. I would say something like this. Uh, my first reason for recommending the CRV is that it is affordable. There are two things I want you to kind of take note of here. First, you'll notice I say my first reason. This is what we call a transition. Transition helps keep your reader aware of where you're going so that they don't lose sight of the path of the essay. It's kind of like a road sign, and it creates what's called a good sense of audience. You want your essays to have a good sense of audience. You want it to be obvious when I'm reading your essays or when anyone else is reading them that it's written for a person, that essay is written for someone to read, and it doesn't sound like just a machine spitting out a bunch of information. So very, very important. Another thing you'll notice here is something that's referred to as the thesis link. It's a good idea. Now, I did this in the first topic sentence. Usually you'd probably want to do this like by the second or third. And that is reminding the reader of what your thesis is. So that way they stay on track. It's kind of like you're holding their hand, taking them through the essay. So, oh yeah, if they're wondering why is he talking about its affordability, that it's affordable, it's because it's reminding the reader that's why I recommend the CRV. And so from there, that takes us to our next item, and this is what we refer to as the supporting details. You can't just say something's affordable, because if a really, really rich person says this is affordable and you're not rich, then it doesn't mean much to you. So what concrete supporting details can you provide of its affordability? Now, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm just pulling details out of thin air. I don't know for sure any of this, what I'm saying. But for instance, I might do something like this. For my supporting details, I might say, according to Car and Driver magazine, the CRV starts at, let's just say, I'm probably just wrong about this, but let's just say 35,000. Well, a couple important things I want to draw your attention to here. I'll just put an underline so you know it's part of my example. One, you'll notice this part here, according to Car and Driver magazine. That's what we call in-text citation. An in-text citation is when you're letting your reader know where you got your information from. Car and Driver magazine. And of course, it's a publication, you want to italicize it like this. This would be called not just an in-text citation, but a direct in-text citation, also known as a signal phrase. And that's because you're actually telling your reader openly, here's where I got my information from. And you'll notice I have for my supporting detail a statistic. A number is a statistic. So this is clear. Now it's very clear to your reader. This is how much it costs. So now they know whether they can afford it or not. I'm going to give you another one. I could say something like this. The CRV is cheaper than the similar Toyota RAV4. Let's say I got this from, I'm just making this up. Let's say I got this from Kelley Blue Book. You'll notice I did something a little different this time. So one, this still supports it. If it's cheaper than the similar Toyota RAV4, then that means that helps my argument that's affordable because it's cheaper than a car that's in its class. You'll notice what I did here though. This also is called an in-text citation, this Kelley Blue Book item, but you'll notice it's a little different. It's instead of directly referencing it, I put it in parentheses. This is called a parenthetical in-text citation, also known as a indirect in-text citation. So you can choose whatever you want to do, but as long as you got your information from somewhere else and it's not common knowledge, you got it from a source, you have to cite it. You can cite it directly. The humanities, like English, they generally prefer direct citations like this. or you can cite it, which is also known as a signal phrase, or you can cite it indirectly or parenthetically like this. That's usually more commonly done in science classes, but in my class, whichever one you prefer is entirely up to you. Well, so now my first body paragraph's done. So now I want to go to my second body paragraph. So I have to address my second main idea. So I could do something like this. Another reason I like the CRV is that it is, I think that second one was roomy. I'm just going to double check that. Yes, it's roomy. And so you'll notice right here, I have not only is this whole item here my topic sentence, but you'll notice I have a transition, another reason. So once again, it's like I'm holding the reader by the hand, guiding the reader through. So you know, here's my second reason. And once again, we have a thesis link. I'm reminding you what my essay is about. This is why I like the CRV. And so once again, you want to use concrete supporting details on why you recommend this, in this case, the car for being roomy. And so I might want to use dimensions. I could say, and now again, this is something I'm just completely making it. I have no idea if this is right. I'm sure it's wrong. I could say something like this, according to Consumer Reports, the CRV is, I don't know, let's just say 6 feet by 5 feet by, let's say, 10 feet. Oops, a little typo there. Now I have concrete supporting details once again in the form of statistics. So now it's not just, oh, it's roomy. Now you know exactly how roomy it is, and you can decide, is this roomy enough or not? My period, by the way, would go right there. And so once again, I use an in-text citation. In this case, a direct in-text citation because I'm actually telling you where I got it from openly, also known as a signal phrase. And because it's a publication, I would, of course, italicize it like this. And then for my second supporting detail, I might say, once again, do a little comparison and say the CRV furthermore. So kind of a little transition to let you know, here's my second supporting detail, is roomier than the similar Toyota RAV4. And let's say I got that information from, let's just say, Motor Trend magazine. Let's say I decide, I think that's one word. Let's say this time I decide to use a parenthetical citation or an indirect in-text citation. I'm perfectly fine doing that. Now you'll notice I have once again, just reminding you, this is my topic. What is a good car to own? That's the question. Your essay is about that. It's about the question. But what is your thesis? Well, the point of it, or my answer is, a Honda CRV is a good car to own. What are my main ideas for it? Is that the Honda CRV is affordable, roomy, and reasonably fast. And so now for my topic sentence, it's my first reason for recommending the CRV is that it is affordable. Well, I can't just leave it at that. I have to support it. So I found its base price and where it starts, and that it's cheaper than a similar car. On similarly, for the roominess, I found its dimensions, and then I said that it's roomier than a similar car, similar vehicle. So then I go to my third topic sentence, and my third main idea is that it's reasonably fast. So since it's my last one, it's a good idea to make that clear and say the final reason. Sorry, I just went to hold, I'll fix that. I prefer the CRV is that it is reasonably fast. So I'll get rid of that bold. And once again, I can't just leave it at that. If I say something's reasonably fast, well, I have to have support for that. And so what would be my support for it? Well, I could say something like this. According to the, let's say, Los Angeles Times, the CRV's top Now, let's say horsepower is, again, I'm just making this up. I think it's like 195 or something. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty strong. So, but whether someone thinks it's good or not, they at least know exactly how fast or how powerful it is. 195. And since I'm directly citing the Los Angeles Times, now in this case, I don't cite the author, but let's say there is an author. I could then put something like let's say the person's last name is Johnson. I can do this because usually you have like if there's no author, if it's just according to a newspaper, that's fine. But let's say there's an author, I could always put the last name like this. So you could have both if the parenthetical one is providing information that's more specific than the direct citation or the signal phrase. Then I could say also, once again, make a comparison. The CRV is faster than the RAV4. And I might have gotten that, once from car and driver. If there's an author's name that's responsible for that article, then I would put that in there instead. But there are other things I could do. I could look at 0 to 60 ratio. I could look at its top speed. So don't think you have to stop just at 2 supporting details. I'm just doing that just for the sake of I guess brevity. But you can always do more, 3, 4, 5. You don't want to overdo it, but you want to make your point as strongly as you can. And then you get to the conclusion. And so the conclusion, the good thing about it is the easiest because you're just reviewing. You're not adding new information. You review the thesis and you review the main ideas, and then you're done. And I want to show you a little trick there. But before I do, one thing I do want to mention is that generally for essays, your main ideas are optional in the intro. They're optional for a very simple reason, because if they're not visible in the intro, well, they're going to be, or they better be visible in the topic sentence. And so some people will leave out the main ideas from the intro because they don't want their essay to seem too redundant, like they're just repeating the same thing over and over. And so, but when you get to your conclusion, you have to remind your readers of your thesis and main ideas. One trick that I learned is this, and I learned this in high school. It just kind of came to me, and it worked very well. Because one thing when I was a student in high school, I was like, well, if my conclusion is going to repeat my thesis and main ideas, it's going to sound very redundant. It's going to sound just like I'm regurgitating my intro. So then it dawned on me, well, wait a minute, if I switch the order, then I'm still making the same point, but it has an automatic freshness to it. So where my intro says a Honda CRV is a good car to own because it's affordable, roomy, and reasonably fast, the conclusion reverse them and say, so because it is affordable, roomy, and reasonably fast, I recommend the CRV. Now that sounds instantly fresh, good, even though I'm giving the same information. And so I would do that and then just close it up with a closing sentence. It could be something kind of casual like, so why not get one now? Just to kind of let your reader know, whoops, that's a typo, just to let your reader know you're done. You've said all you can say. Your essay is over. And so if you, I think for any class, but certainly for mine, if you know this basic essay format, you should be good.